ELI5. How after 5,000 years of humanity surviving off of bread do we have so many people within the last decade who are entirely allergic to gluten? We don't know. There are a number of theories about this. To clarify, while the increase may be exaggerated by people who falsely claim intolerance when they probably have other health issues, or are hypochondriacs, there is actually an increase in people with diagnosable gluten intolerance. And gluten intolerance is different than celiac. I'm taking here about gluten intolerance. Some possible causes include changes in the gut microbiome and changes in how we process and make bread. Changes in the gut microbiome are a likely contributor, but the causes and effects of that are just stating to be understood, and barely. So I won't go into that too much, but if anyone has questions I may be able to answer. On the processing side, one interesting theory is that the germ of wheat helps us process the gluten in some way. It has lots of nutrients, vitamins, fats, etc. Modern wheat flour, even most whole grain stuff, is made by separating the germ from the rest of the wheat first, then processing. This causes the flour to keep longer but removes all those nutrients. This is why flour, cereals need to be fortified. However, we only fortify with the vitamins and minerals for which we notice obvious deficiencies. So, it's entirely feasible that we are neglecting to add something back into the flour that helps some people not develop gluten intolerance. This may be via some immune response or due to changes caused in the gut microbe. E.g., we are no longer giving some micronutrients to a specific bacteria in our gut so it dies out. That bacteria helped us process gluten or a byproduct, and without its help we get sick. It's also possible that our body just needs some nutrient in the germ to process gluten efficiently. We really just don't know. TLDR. Shit's complicated. Literally edit. First, I know the difference between a theory and hypothesis. I was using the term colloquially, which even scientists do sometimes. People seem to have extrapolated way more than they should have from my comment. Like are asking me where to buy bread with wheat germ and how to fix their gut microbes. That's really not how this works. Anybody who gives you an easy answer to your problems is probably trying to sell you something. I'm looking at you, supplement, probiotics industry. Until relatively recently we didn't even know bacteria could survive in your gut, so expecting the scientific community to have a solid understanding of the gut microbiome now is absurd. These questions span the fields of nutrition, microbial ecology, microbe-host interactions, immunology, and more. I'm sure there are hundreds of plausible explanations, but we are very far away from definitively answering most questions related to the gut microbe. We do know that it affects digestive health, mood, weight, and all kinds of other human physiology. What we don't know is how to bend it to our will or how it causes all of these things. We do know that the answer is complicated. How do different bacteria interact with each other in your gut, and then with your body? We also don't know much about that. But we're learning. There is a unique soup of maybe 1,000 species of bacteria in your gut, and they are mostly different than the species that live in mine. We are just starting to learn how specific individual species of bacteria can affect their hosts. But even with this research, we don't think that it will be the same in everyone. Example. Maybe bacteria A has effect B on me, but it has effect C on you, because I have bacteria Q in my gut and you don't, and bacteria Q is necessary for effect B. Now consider that X 1,000 species, and that a genetic component also affects this, and diet and stress levels and fitness also affect this. See where I'm going? We do know that the gut microbe is influenced by stress, diet, sleep, environmental exposure, your parents, exercise, infection, travel, antibiotics, alcohol consumption, genetics, epigenetics, which is affected by all of these things and more, social habits, sun exposure, etc. Just to name a few. The extent to which these affect each person is probably highly variable. So asking about specific solutions or a quick fix is a waste of time, especially on the internet. And if you have a shitty diet, especially one high in carbs and sugar or high stress levels, or you drink a lot, addressing those first is probably a smarter solution than asking about wheat germ and special bread and probiotics. May work in some cases for some people sometimes, and usually not as a fix but as a supplement. It's just not well studied enough. And GMOs, no evidence of them affecting any of this or even a feasible mechanism for how they would. TLDR 2. No really, shit's complicated. Something that works for one person May not for another for hundreds of reasons that we don't know much about yet, but are sort of on the verge of understanding. This is also why the human microbiome is so hard to study. Remember, none of this is well researched enough for there to be standardized advice for anybody outside of the normal live a healthy lifestyle advice, and slowly figuring out what makes you feel better. So don't ask for a quick fix and don't trust anyone who offers one. Here are some links about the microbiome and a couple on the microbiome and link yes, non-celiac wheat, gluten intolerance exists. Some studies have shown that people who claim to have it do not, but that does not encompass all the literature. The key to those studies is that they were looking at self-reported gluten intolerance, so basically your average but gluten person, not people who were medically evaluated and thought to have it. Turns out you just have to find the right people to study, who actually have it. Just skim this Google Scholar search and you will see significant evidence of its existence. Link. I didn't mean to start a war. Maybe you didn't know this, but any post about gluten, religion, Trump, spanking, or gender relations is the Reddit equivalent of shouting this as Sparta and chest-kicking the Persian ambassador into a bottomless pit.